this on? Okay, good. Good morning. My name is Nicole Kessler. I'm a member of the Michigan Parent Alliance for Safe Schools, a grassroots group of parents in communities across Michigan. I am also a mother of a young son. Like all of us here today, I grieve for the families of the 3 Spartans who lost their lives: Ariel Anderson, Alexandria Verner, and Brian Fraser. I mourn for the injured students, and I also mourn for the thousands of students and their families who may have dodged the bullets, but not the trauma that many of their family will feel in the months and years ahead. I would like to now introduce Mike McKissick, who lost a child to gun violence, and who will now speak and then lead us in a prayer in a moment of silence.
Thank you. My name is Michael McKissick. I lost a son through gun violence in 2015. He was murdered not too far from here. And our motto in the Mikey 23 Foundation is, instead of picking up a gun to commit gun violence in our community, pick up a hammer and build up your community. And right now, I'd like to have a moment of silence of prayer for those who lost their loved ones and those who survived. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Like every parent in Michigan, our organization wants children to be safe. We are not asking for too much when we demand that our kids are safe in their schools and in their classrooms, from preschool to high school to college. We are not asking for too much when we demand that legislators pass common sense safety measures like universal background checks and safe storage requirements. For too long in Michigan, parents have waited and waited for politicians to put our children's safety first, except that too many of those politicians were in the pockets of the gun lobby while generations of children experienced the trauma of lockdown drills and worse, actual shootings. Now, we are hopeful that a new day is here. We can finally take the first steps toward reining in gun violence with leaders like Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Senator Rosemary Bayer and Representative Brenda Carter leading the legislature's Firearms Safety Violence Prevention Caucus. And the next speaker that I'm proud to introduce and call my friend, President of the Michigan Board of Education and a true champion for safer schools, Dr. Pamela Pugh.
As we were organizing this event, I did not know how heavy this moment would be. We stand between the Michigan Department of Education and we stand in the Capitol building where policy has to be made. We are not asking, we are demanding that policy be made to protect our children. Yes. When I think about the parents and the survivors that we will hear from today, the stories that we will hear of trauma, seeing their friends harmed, not seeing friends come back. The time is now for us to act in a bipartisan way. If I can put on a Spartan shirt, we can be united in this state, and we must be united. I don't even know if David remembers, but I met him years ago in other settings under public health, discussing public health. What I appreciated about David Hogg is that he talked about community violence, no matter if it's in a black and brown community, it should not happen to our children, or if it's in a school building, in those places that we say that we never thought that violence could take place. And I've appreciated that, and I appreciated that I could pick up the phone and call him years later, and that he would show up for our students here in Michigan. We are united. Our legislators, Rosemary Bear, we thank her. We thank Representative Carter and the whole team of Senate and House Democrats who will push this legislation. And we definitely have the back of our governor, who will move this legislation forward expeditiously, swiftly. Now we need everyone to call on their friends on the other side of the aisle and tell them now is the time that Michigan must unite. Enough is enough. And I am going to now turn this over to Senator Bear, and we thank you. And you can talk about all of your colleagues who are working on this. I did hear from Senator Sarah Anthony, who said we're making sure that this is about all of our communities, and we thank you.
Blue and gold makes green. Thank you all. First, I too need to say how sorry I am for the students we lost and those that were critically wounded, and their families and their friends and their roommates, and everyone in this entire community who's been hurt, wounded by this horrible tragedy. As part of my work in the Michigan Senate, I am the chair of the Firearm Safety and Violence Prevention Caucus for the last 2 years, where we have over 40 members between the House of Representatives and the Senate are part of this working group creating legislation. Some have worked on this for 8 years, reintroducing legislation every session. I've been doing this for 4 years. We are all dedicated to solving this horrible, pervasive, massive problem. And of course, in the last 4 years, it's gotten so much worse. We know now that the #1 cause of death for children and young adults is gun violence here in Michigan and across the country. I am a gun violence survivor multiple times. I got involved in this when I was in 8th grade. My neighbor, my 15-year-old neighbor, died of a self-inflicted gunshot. And later, as an adult, my cousin did the same thing. So I wanted to work on that, and I got involved in this movement here. The shooting in Oxford changed my life and everyone's lives. Everyone in Oxford. I had family members. I lived in Oxford for a long time, so I had family members, 2 students, and a first responder who were in the school that day. I got text that day. I will never forget that day. And neither will anybody who lives in Oxford. In the past 4 years since I've been here, other shootings in my district were killing my people all the time. And every single one hurts. Every single time I cry. And then Michigan State. I cried for days. The tragedy is so great, the entire community will never forget. Never forget this moment, this week, this day. Never forget this horrible tragedy. We have to fix it. We are the adults. We have to fix it. So kids taught from 4 years old to be afraid to go to school. Kids are taught from 4 years old that school is a scary place and you have to practice how to stay away from a shooter. And everywhere we go now, right? Churches, grocery stores, everywhere we go, we are all afraid. We're becoming more and more afraid. And I really hate the idea that we think we have to harden our schools just to keep our kids safe, to make them no fun at all, right? To make them scary, dark, creepy places with cameras and metal detectors. And do we have that in school? Should we have to do that to our kids? No, we need to fix the problem. Yeah, I've worked on gun legislation for the last 4 years, and every time we introduce something, I would think, and I was new at this, I'm an engineer, I don't know politics, I would think, this time, they're gonna get it, and they're gonna say yes, this time, because the majority of people in Michigan want us to do this. They've been telling us for years to do this, so this time. And then they didn't. And then we just tried some simple things. Let's just do something that of course you want to do. Of course you want to have basic background checks. Of course, on all firearms. We already have them on handguns. Why not all firearms? Of course, that's such a simple thing. 90% of Michiganders want us to do that. 90%. But no, we could not get a hearing. We could not get a vote. We tried to do this thing that would help protect our kids. A really simple request. Safely store your firearm so they can't get it, so they don't shoot themselves, so they don't shoot someone else by accident, all the things that can happen. I thought that was so simple. Of course they're going to want to do that, but no. And then we thought, well, you know, there's a lot of challenges in domestic violence. There's challenges in mental health. We know that. We're working on these things. Boy, here's some legislation. I know they're going to want to do this. We introduced bills that would significantly has proven to decrease the chance of suicide, to decrease the chance of senseless rampages. But no, we could not get a hearing or a vote. And I kept reminding them in all my floor speeches, this is our job, this is our responsibility, we have to do this. The polls kept saying over and over again, Michigan wants this. Today, I am relieved to finally be able to say that we are taking action. We are finally changing the story. We've introduced gun safety legislation in a new environment where we are going to have hearings, we are going to have votes, and we blooming well are going to pass those bills. So we introduced our action now. The first set of actions we took last Thursday, we introduced, and we will soon vote on and expect to pass a universal background check set of bills. So that's a basic check before every firearm purchase, not just handguns. The changes in the bills, the laws that we have now, crosses out the word handgun and inserts the word firearm. So simple. We also introduced and expect to pass safe storage legislation to ensure that firearms are securely stored, unavailable to minors, and to hold their owners responsible for that. Thank you. And we introduced and we expect to pass red flag, extreme risk protection order legislation to get at the problem when someone could be a danger to themselves or to others, and someone knows that. This happens a lot. This happened in my district last year, where the family knew, the family called police, the police came every time, but they weren't allowed to take any action. And in the end, 3 people died because of that one person who desperately needed help, and the family who desperately needed help, and there was no help. We introduced and expect to pass those bills soon. All of these bills have been proven effective in other states. All of these bills will be part of making Michigan safer for all of us. We know that this is a monstrously huge problem. These bills are not going to fix everything, but I am committed, we are committed to continuing this work to expand proven legislative solutions. We're getting help from a lot of organizations outside of Michigan. We're getting help from a lot of organizations inside of Michigan. You're going to hear from some of these groups here today, using legislation from other states where things are working with national groups, working with actually we had 53 people at our last caucus meeting. There are many people in the legislature who are dedicated to this cause. We will keep working for you, with you, until we get this fixed. And there's a ton to do, and I am privileged to be a part of us taking our first steps. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Olivia Upham, and I attended Oxford Community Schools for 13 years, preschool through senior year, when I graduated in 2017. The best days of my life were inside of Oxford's classrooms, and I know now that is a luxury. Many of my former Oxford teachers have become my confidants, allies, and family, and I can tell you that they are suffering. I moved away to attend college in Washington, D.C., and within my first 6 months of university, I attended the very first March for Our Lives protest. I did not know 5 years later we'd be convening here for my state and my hometown. As fate or chance would have it, I received the opportunity to teach 6th grade in the 2021 school year at the very same middle school that I attended, in Oxford, not but 11 years after I was a student there. 3 months into my teaching, though, we locked down, we prayed, we had vigils, we mourned for my community on November 30th, 2021. On my last day teaching my 6th graders, who are, by the way, the brightest, funniest, most curious group of individuals I have met, I wrote all 154 of my kids a goodbye letter. I promised them that though I was leaving, I would still attend their games, their matches, their ceremonies, and even their weddings. I know in my heart of hearts that I must prepare for the potential that one of them will experience gun violence in their lifetime. Let me say that again. I have fully braced myself to the fact I may have to attend one of their funerals as an educator in the United States of America. My brother Keegan Rock survived the shooting at Oxford High School, though his friends did not. He will attend Michigan State University this fall. My own school board has dismissed me. Will you? Where are you? Where is your shame, your humility, your inspiration, your fight, your drive, and your cry? After I graduated from George Washington University and began teaching in Oxford, I was invited to serve in the United States Peace Corps as a teacher to represent the very best our education system has to offer abroad in Africa. What would I tell them? What is there to represent? Do I tell my new students that before our children are scholars, are athletes, are silly, are mischievous, are carefree, are creative, they are targets? Do I tell them here in one of the wealthiest, safest countries in the world, we are accepting and tolerant of our own being slaughtered while studying? As Representative Alyssa Slotkin implored me in a private conversation I had with her last week, it is time to shame and to name those who are against our best, our children. I would do anything for my brother Keegan. I would do anything for my 154 students. I would do anything to bring back Tate, Hannah, Justin, Madison, Brian, Ariel, and Alex. But remorse is not enough. How will you vote, and how will you use your voice? Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I want to thank Dr. Pugh for having me today on March for Our Lives. I also want to send my heartfelt condolences to the families of the four that we lost at the MSU tragedy. My name is Dylan Morris. I'm the Executive Director of No Future Without Today and a senior at Oxford High School. No Future Without Today is a 501c4 social welfare initiative to curb gun violence through mental health resources and expand our sensible gun reforms. I was at the school on Tuesday, November 30th, when a student exited the bathroom, firing rounds into the hallway, murdering Hannah, Tate, Justin, Madison, and wounding 7 others, including a teacher. Ready to defend ourselves if anyone came through our door, my classmates and I grabbed makeshift weapons, including scissors, tape dispensers, and a hockey stick, anything we could find at the moment. This shouldn't have been a school day for me and my classmates. After embracing my family later that day, I realized that Hannah, Tate, Justin, and Madison didn't make it home that day, and I was fortunately one of the lucky ones. I was in denial for weeks, wrestling with my thoughts and actions. I couldn't make sense of how this could happen at any school, let alone mine. In the 14 months that have passed since the shooting at Oxford High School, my team and I have been urging the Michigan legislature to pass reasonable gun safety laws, including truly universal background checks, extreme risk protection orders, and secure storage laws. These protections are practical, they're well understood, there's a consensus for them, and they will save lives. The impressive turnout in Michigan this past election was at least in part due to the students at MSU who got out the vote in record numbers to put Democrats in power. Now it's time for the Democrats in the legislature to deliver on the gun sense legislation they campaigned on. Similar bills have been introduced year after year in Michigan, only to languish without further action. Now, I'm able to commend the Michigan senators, especially Senator Rosemary for introducing SB 76 through 86. We have a hearing scheduled, we have incredible pressure and attention on this issue, and I'm confident we will be able to call it to a vote. here soon. And I urge members of the Michigan House to follow suit so that we can have real, tangible progress on this issue, because students here in the state of Michigan cannot wait any longer. We go to school to become better people. We go to school to experience new things. We go to school to build our futures. Hannah, Tate, Justin, Madison, Ariel, Alexandria, and Brian went to school to build their futures, not have their futures taken away from them. School should be safe. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Renee Upham. I have precious few minutes to share a lot with you. I apologize for rushing. I'm very angry, and I don't apologize for that. I live in Oxford, Michigan, with my husband and 3 children. It's the only hometown my kids have ever known. 2 of my kids are Oxford graduates. You just heard my oldest, Olivia. My youngest, Keegan, is currently a senior at Oxford High School, and he was present the day a gunman opened fires in the halls of his school on November 30th, 2021. That night, I told Keegan I was so sorry. Sorry the adults in his society let him and his classmates down. Fast forward to last weekend. Keegan committed to attending MSU in the fall. A couple of days later, a gunman opened fire at Michigan State. Once again, I apologized to him. Sorry the adults have once again let him and his peers down. Only this time, my sorry rang hollow. I could barely spit the word sorry out, because I am not sure society cares. I am a mom, I am a Spartan, and up until 2 weeks ago, when I resigned, I was a teacher in Oxford. Leaving a teaching job mid-year is a tough decision. It comes with fears that I have left kids behind in a system that is unable to protect them. Part of my leaving was a personal decision in my heart between my son Keegan and I. I could no longer work for a system that put him and others so directly in harm's way. I can also not work for a system that has stayed silent about the fact America is the only country that loses kids at school by gunfire at this rate. It is reprehensible. Since the shooting in Oxford, I have wondered, where are the educators, counselors, school administrators? Where has the union been? Why are educators not banding together and saying enough is enough? If you are an educator, you can no longer stay silent. You can no longer wait on the sidelines. Look around. It is so glaringly obvious who is not here today. Teachers have so much power. This system does not work without us. How is it we watch kids traumatized, injured, or killed, and we do not band together on a national level to use our powers to help them? I've wondered, what does it do to the psyche of children who withstand this kind of trauma? What do you think it does to their sense of well-being in the world to run, to fight, to hide? Because someone near them has the intent and the means to take their life. But even worse than all of that, what does it do to these kids to know the country refuses to fix it? Some adults won't even come to the table. Do you know, as a teacher, I have had to teach 7-year-olds which objects are the smartest ones to grab to throw at a gunman who enters our classroom? Books and chairs, yes. Scarves and mittens, no. Do you know, I have looked at 7th graders in the eyes and told them if a gunman enters our building, they have to rely on themselves to make the best decision in that moment if they should run, hide, or fight. How can kids trust the adults that we have this under control? Because the fact is, we don't. They've seen the carnage, they felt the terror. As my son Keegan did, they've typed the word shooter in text messages to their moms and dads at home. They know the adults are not keeping them safe. They know the score. These kids are saying enough. And I stand with them as they call out the people who continue to ignore this devastation unique to this country. We need direct and immediate pipelines to mental health help for the people that need it. We need simple, moderate gun legislation, and we need it passed now, not tomorrow. Every adult in this nation, in this state, in the schools, government offices, boardrooms, and living rooms, need to understand this simple fact. You are culpable for this violence if you stay silent and do nothing. Thank you.
Public speaking used to be my biggest fear. If you told me a year and a half ago that I'd be doing this today, I would not have believed you. I think the same can be said about the mass shooting I survived. I would have never guessed that I'd end up running for my life and that I'd lose a close friend to murder. But then again, no one in this room ever imagined that any of this would be their reality. My name is Madeline Johnson. I'm from Oxford. I'm here today because I'm angry. I'm angry that all of us had to learn firsthand that there are much scarier things in this world than giving speeches. I am angry that 4 children died at my high school, including my best friend, and that their lives were not worth enough to you to enact change. Now I know that most people in this room are in my shoes, so I want to express today that I'm speaking solely to legislators, to anyone with the ability to bring us safety who has refused to do so time and time again. Tate, Hannah, Madison, and Justin were not only murdered in their high school, they were also failed. They were failed by the people who were supposed to protect them. Oxford was not the first community to experience a mass shooting in this country. We've known as a society for a long time now that gun violence is a crisis. I've spoken dozens of times. I've yelled, I've protested, I've rallied, I've lobbied, I've done it all, and I think I speak for us all when I say that we are tired. We're college and high school students. We should be worried about writing essays, not eulogies. What more do you want from us? When is it going to be enough? Ariel, Alexandria, and Brian were failed. They are dead because of the lack of common sense gun legislation we not only have just in this country, but more specifically in the state of Michigan. I could name hundreds of beautiful humans who were failed. What if I'm naming your loved ones next? What if we're holding conferences, protests, and vigils for your loved ones? Will you care then? I realize that a large package of gun violence prevention bills has been introduced in the Senate. While I am thankful that this has finally happened, I am angry that it cost Madison her life. I'm angry that it cost Tate, Hannah, Justin, Brian, Alexandria, and Ariel their lives. I also recognize that there are many individuals who have pushed for this to happen and who have been fighting alongside us for a long time, and I am grateful for the hard work those legislators have dedicated to the cause. But to all those in office who refuse to support this common sense legislation, the only thing I ask of you is to wake up. Picture your life without your children, your parents, your significant other, and your relatives. Picture their faces on the news. You are not immune to the effects of gun violence. It's clear that nobody is. I now know people who have survived 2 mass shootings. It's no longer a matter of if when it comes to the effects of gun violence. It's a matter of when. You've ignored us for years and years, but you can't ignore us any longer. Because at some point, you have to realize that the life of a child is worth more than your spot in office. If you disagree, then you don't deserve to be in a position of power. We are young adults. We are young adults. We are your voters now. When it comes time to head to the polls, we will remember who fought for us and who offered nothing but thoughts and prayers. My childhood was ripped away from me 14 months ago when I heard gunshots ringing in my ears before 5th period. I don't get to be a normal kid anymore, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I will gladly sacrifice that to protect others from enduring what I endured. But now, it's your turn to protect us. It's your turn to do what should have been done decades ago. Yeah, you may lose voters, you may lose money, and even your spot in office, but trust me when I say that there are worse things to lose. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zoe Hayden, and I'm a Michigan State junior and the co-president of March for Our Lives MSU. A year and 3 months ago, I got a text no one should ever have to receive. There's a shooter in my school right now. 1 week ago, I had to send that same text back. When the Oxford High School shooting happened, I was in shock. I never believed something like this would happen to my family, my sister. Lila, my little sister, called me while she was locked in her classroom. That was the most terrifying experience of my life, hearing what was going on in those halls while she was locked inside so close to it all, knowing she was in those hallways just moments before. That same fear struck me during the MSU shooting. I was brought right back. It was all happening again. I was in my apartment, knowing people I loved were on campus. It was 4 hours of waiting and not knowing what was going on. The fear that I experienced for the people that I loved that were there both times will never leave me. This is the second mass shooting that has directly affected my life. No one should have to experience one, let alone two, events of gun violence. And I was lucky. I was lucky that both times I was safe. I was lucky that my sister survived. I was lucky that the friends I had on campus survived. But not everyone was. Not everyone has the privilege to say what I am saying now because of gun violence, because of the lack of change that has been made. I can only imagine how my own mother must have felt getting that text twice, two of her children being threatened by the epidemic of gun violence. I can only imagine the fear that my older sister feels going into school as a teacher every day after both of her sisters have experienced school shootings. We should not have to live in fear. So many of these shootings could have been prevented if only for universal background checks, safe storage requirements, and assault weapons bans. But they didn't listen. We need to act to tackle the root causes of gun violence, not just how to better react when we inevitably experience it. Almost 1 year ago to the day, I stood on the Capitol steps just a block away. I stood there beside my sister, her classmates, now survivors, and 50 young people from across Michigan who decided that enough was enough. If our elected officials won't protect our lives, then we will. I met with several lawmakers that day, pleading for them to take action. I watched as my then 15-year-old sister recounted her survival story to reporters and begged politicians to take her life seriously. But they did nothing. It still happened again. I helped start the MSU chapter for March for Our Lives this semester because I wanted to bring what they were doing to MSU's campus. After I saw firsthand how horrific the epidemic of gun violence is, I wanted to be able to continue to do something about it. I can't think of a single person that I am friends with in America who has not had gun violence directly affect their life. 5 years after the shooting in Parkland and a year after Oxford, Michigan State University felt the pain that gun violence causes. We need this to change. So many people should not have to experience these horrific events. You have the power to make a difference. You have the power to save lives by passing these laws. It is time for change, and we will continue to fight for our lives. We intend to win. Thank you.
Alexandria, Brian, Ariel. We will remember their names. And I don't really need to introduce these two, David and Mariah. All I just want to do is tell you thank you. Thank you for answering the call of our children, our students. You shouldn't have to be here, but you are, and we thank you. And I'm just gonna call you all on up.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariah Cooley, and I'm a Howard University student here, and I'm a board member for March for Our Lives. And we're here today because young people have a lot to lose, and we've already lost so much. There have been 71 mass shootings this year. No other country has to experience this form of terror and violence that we face in the United States of America. And the problem in America is getting worse. And it's not just mass shootings, it's everyday gun violence. I got involved with this movement because I lost my cousin due to gun violence. And it's the everyday, community-based gun violence that I want to focus on today. Because we have a right to live, and we have a right to live without the fear of gun violence. We have a right to live and be in our homes, in our churches, in our grocery stores, in our schools, and not worry about a bullet. I don't want to have to walk down the street and wonder when I go into this building, am I going to be met with violence, or can I have peace? America doesn't have peace, and we haven't for a long time. Michigan legislators, I'm here today to talk to you. You have the power to save the lives in your state, and every second wasted is another second a mass shooting could occur. And it's bigger than just mass shootings. Michigan's rate of gun homicides against black people was 30% higher than the national average. And while black people represent only 15% of the state population, they suffer 75% of gun homicides. It's more than just mass shootings. It's your everyday American, your everyday community of colors that need you the most. If that does not show you what kind of public health crisis we're in, then I don't know what will. But let me make one thing clear. Gun violence does not care about your political party, your economic status, your upbringing. The only way to prevent death by a gun is to do your job as legislators to prevent it. Michigan, I hope you're listening, because historically young people, we always show up in every single election, and we'll continue to do so. So if you don't do the right thing to save our lives, we will be voting you out.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Pugh, obviously, for the work that we've unfortunately had to continue doing over the past 5 years since Parkland and even before. Of course, thank you to Representative Bear and the MSU students that unfortunately have to be here right now and can't be in their dorms sleeping in on President's Day weekend. I'm tired of being at these things. I'm really tired of being here. I think all of us are. I was here only a couple months ago in Lansing, literally only a couple hundred feet from here, with students that ended up going through the shooting at MSU. People like Zoe, who just talked, like Zoe Hayden, and so many others. And the reality is this. What we're doing right now as a country is not working. The cycle that we're in of endless debate, inaction, is not working. And I know that this is not something that just Democrats are tired of or just Republicans are tired of. Every single student in America is exhausted. Every single parent in our country is exhausted, not just because of the shootings that happen at places like MSU, at Parkland, at Oxford, but by the fact that what happened at MSU, what happened at Parkland in the form of individual shootings happens every single day, multiple times a day in our country, and it does not get the attention that it deserves. Every single shooting, no matter the zip code that it occurs in, no matter who it affects, deserves the attention, not just the ones that make it in the headlines. Look, we understand as a country that we have our disagreements, obviously. Just watch any cable news, turn on the TV at any point, that's obvious. How about we start focusing on what we can agree on, which is the fact that we need to do something about this. We need to come together as a country. Last I remembered, the motto that we went by as a country is not Democrats and Republicans are constantly fighting against each other and nothing happens. What I remember learning about in our history books is e pluribus unum. Out of many, one. We need to be one as a country united against gun violence. One as a state united against gun violence, and one as every community united against gun violence. Look, I can respect people that don't agree with me, but I can't accept the fact that there is nothing that we can do to end gun violence, not just in communities that look like MSU, but in every single community in our country. We have to focus on what we can agree on and acknowledge the fact that obviously, again, that we know that we're divided. That's okay, that's part of democracy. What is not part of democracy is doing nothing in the face of existential threats to the domestic tranquility, as is talked about in our preamble. We are failing to ensure the very values that our country was founded on of domestic tranquility and ensuring that our students and everyday people are able to live without fear. That's unacceptable. But the only way that we're going to get out of this is if we break the cycle that we're in right now of debate and inaction after shootings and turn that cycle into one of dialogue, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans, of dialogue and action after these. I often hear older people saying, "Thank God the kids are here." Stop it. You're not dead yet. We need you. We need every generation in this fight with us. Join us. Be part of the solution no matter your age. Don't be part of the silence. Be part of the solution and join us. Don't just look at young people that are up here and say, "Wow, that's really amazing that they're doing that." Work with us. We need you. Our country needs you. These young people need you. We need you as a generation to not just say, man, we really messed up and we're glad that you guys are here. No, you are still here. Come join us now. Your kids are in existential danger every single day in their communities and in their schools because of inaction of people that look like buildings like this in the 50 United States of America. As a country, we need to come together across racial lines, across political lines, across generational lines, and work to stop the very thing that is killing the future of our country, which is gun violence. Republicans, I'm here to make you an offer that I'm sure you have refused to make before to the Democrats in this state. We want to work with you. We want to find common ground to make sure that it doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans that are in power, that if and when, unfortunately, gun violence continues, because this is going to take a long time, that it doesn't matter which political party is in power, because we all care about the safety of our children and the domestic tranquility guaranteed to us in the preamble of the Constitution. Come join us in that. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a dialogue. Let's put our politics aside so that future young people can be at home and at college being students instead of activists because of your failures. Lastly, if we got every single state in this country to implement common sense gun laws like those in Massachusetts and other states across the country, we could cut gun deaths in half in this country. Those laws have been ruled constitutional and they have been proven effective. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. This has been done before, and we can do it in Michigan, but we're going to need to do it in every single state. And this is my call to action for young people. We've been voting at the highest rates in American history, time and time again, and not just 50-50, but with a massive disproportionate amount for gun safety candidates, for candidates that care about protecting our future. But that's not enough. I need every young person that's here and every young person that's watching this from MSU to stop asking, why does this continue, and start asking, how can we be part of the solution? I want every young person who watches this that asks themselves that question to seriously consider running for state legislature, no matter what state you're in. Are you ready to do that? Are we ready to make sure that headlines like those that happened at MSU, those that happened at Parkland, those that happened at Oxford, those that happened at Columbine, those that happened in so many communities across the country are no longer headlines and are left to our history books? Because we can be, because every other high-income country doesn't have this issue anywhere near the level that we do. The only way that that's going to end, though, is by young people working across generational lines and older people stepping up with us and not just standing by and saying, wow, we really messed up. Thank God the young people are here to save us. We need your help. We need you to work with us. We need you to support us in an intergenerational coalition because we can't do this on our own. And it may be true that we are going to outlive you all, but we need to learn from the mistakes of the past so that future generations don't have to be the next mass shooting generation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Kesto. I'm a sophomore at Michigan State University studying neuroscience public health. I'm a board member of March for Our Lives here at the MSU campus. I got involved in March for Our Lives quickly after Uvalde occurred because I was concerned for the safety of my brothers, but instead I became the one who survived the school shooting. In the past week, my life changed drastically due to gun violence. 3 names. I will never forget our Ariel Anderson, Brian Frazier, a classmate in my organic chemistry class, and Alexandria Werner, who lived in my apartment complex. While Governor Gretchen Whitmer has done an amazing job taking swift action on gun laws, this is not enough to keep me safe. Neither my friends, classmates, siblings, and loved ones safe as well. Other potential solutions that Michigan could consider on gun safety include ban on assault weapons. These types of firearms are designed for military use and have no place in our communities. States like California, Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts have already implemented bans on these deadly weapons. Increase funding for mental health services. Addressing the root cause of gun violence is essential to reducing it. Michigan could increase funding for mental health services to help identify and support individuals who may be at risk of harming themselves or others. More mental health resources also needs to be provided for those impacted by gun violence as well. Strengthen laws on domestic violence. Individuals with a history of domestic violence are more likely to commit gun violence. Michigan could strengthen its laws to prohibit individuals with a historic of domestic violence from owning or possessing firearms. Improve data collection and analysis. Accurate data on gun violence is essential to inform effective policy solutions. Michigan could improve its data collection and analysis on gun violence, including information on the types of firearms used, where they were obtained, and the demographics of those involved. Increase education and awareness on gun safety. Many gun deaths and injuries are the result of accidents. Michigan could implement educational campaigns to increase awareness about gun safety, including proper storage and handling of firearms. By implementing a combination of these solutions and others, Michigan can continue to progress on reducing gun violence and keeping our communities safe. I do not want to be next, and I don't want my friends, loved ones, families to be next as well. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Paula Herbart, a longtime teacher from Macomb County and the president of the Michigan Education Association. Like everyone here today, I was devastated to hear the news last week of the shooting tragically at MSU. I was actually on a Zoom with 2 members who had children at MSU at the time and got the notices. Just a week ago today at this very time, Ariel Anderson, Brian Fraser, Alexandra Werner were still alive and well. Last Monday morning, they were attending their first few classes of the week, getting their to-do lists in order, making plans with friends, I'm sure, all the things that college students do every day. And exactly 1 week ago, they had likes and dislikes, favorite foods, TV shows. They had hopes, dreams, and their whole lives ahead of them. And now they're gone. Taken away from their families, friends, and the community. This list of young people grows, whose lives have been cut short by senseless violence. Children at Oxford, Uvalde, Stoneman Douglas, babies, children at Sandy Hook, and Virginia Tech. Too many to list, actually. And these are just the ones who were murdered at their schools. Countless others of children, students, young people are gunned down every day outside of school. And we cannot keep doing this. We cannot accept school shootings as a normal part of life, offer thoughts and prayers, and move on. As parents and educators, we can't keep wondering if today is the day that something horrible will happen. We must keep pushing our elected leaders to make meaningful action to protect our students from gun violence, our children, our babies. It's past time for state and federal lawmakers to pass reasonable, sensible gun safety laws, sorry about that, universal background checks, extreme protection laws to keep guns out of the hands of those we know pose danger to themselves or others. Safe storage requirements to keep guns at home securely locked and out of children's hands. Increase penalties for adults who fail to secure their firearms and allow them to fall into the wrong hands. These are common sense proposals that are overwhelmingly supported by voters, overwhelmingly, regardless of political party or their affiliation. This is a zero excuse, political or otherwise, for lawmakers to do nothing. Zero reasons. To continue watching innocent children gunned down by people who shouldn't have firearms, to watch communities torn apart by tragedies, to watch parents lose their children. As a parent, I can't tell you that that adage is true that we've all heard. No parent wants to outlive their child. And as an educator, I can tell you, no teacher, no paraeducator, no bus driver, no school cafeteria wants to lose their student.
We want to run into them in the grocery store years after graduation, catch up for a minute, tell them, like one student said to me, "You still smell the same, Mrs. Herbart." You want to run into them and see what they've become. We at MEA believe that every child deserves the opportunity to live and grow and thrive. They deserve the right to actually live. Ariella, Alexandria, and Brian are gone. They no longer have that opportunity. It is too late for them. But we must protect, we can protect their classmates and every other innocent child throughout Michigan and across the country, but only if we take action now. We are watching and we are working to do that.
Thank you, Paula. I'm David Hecker. I'm president of the American Federation of Teachers of Michigan. You know, on January 18th, as part of a statewide end gun violence event, I stood at the podium at the Church of the Messiah in Detroit with others, calling for common sense gun safety legislation. Like everyone here today and throughout the country, if I went back years and looked at my calendar, I could tally the countless number of media events my union has spoken at, letters written, postcards my union has sent, meetings we have had with legislators calling for common sense gun safety legislation, like safe storage, like universal background checks, like red flag laws. Issues that, as Paula said, regular folks strongly support regardless of their political leaning. Our friends and neighbors understand that saving lives should not be a partisan issue. Our friends and neighbors understand that when you go to school, when you shop, when you go to your religious home, the movies, out dancing, you should not have to fear for your life. For some reason, when it gets to elected officials, political affiliation seems to matter. Well, what also matters is elections. This past summer, Congress passed and President Biden signed gun safety legislation. With the leadership of Governor Whitmer, Speaker Tate, Senate Majority Leader Brinks, Senator Baer, and her colleagues, we are confident Michigan will do so as well. We call on legislators from both sides of the aisle to advocate for and pass these laws. How can anyone be against saving lives? Now let me introduce Victor Rodriguez Pereira. Victor is the Vice President of the Union of Non-Tenure Track Faculty, AFT 1855 at Michigan State University. Victor.
Good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I want to say that I'm really sad that I have to be here. It's a weird feeling because I'm also very happy to see each and every one of you here today. First, on behalf of the faculty of the Union of Non-Tenure Track Faculty at Michigan State, I want to extend my condolences to the families of Ariel Anderson, Alexandra Werner, and Brian Fraser, as well as the families of those injured in the horrible events of last week. Teaching has been my calling for most of my life, and it has been my career for all of my adult life. It has brought me some of the happiest memories that I've ever experienced. But that all came to a halt last Monday. If there's a place where my students and I should not feel in danger, it's precisely the university campus and the classroom, the place where learning and community come together. I shouldn't balance every first day of the semester the happiness and excitement of a new class with the fear and concern of where is the nearest exit and how many of my students am I going to be able to protect from a mass shooting. And this is the reason why gun access reform and legislation are so urgent. I wish we would not have had to wait for the shootings on Monday to happen for us to do something about it. To be frank, I am still struggling on what to say about all of this, and how am I going to feel in about an hour or so when I go meet my students in my classroom for the first time since last Wednesday. But right now I can say this. It is the habit of some politicians to talk the talk but not walk the walk. For us, as of last Monday, the time for conversation is over. What we need is action. No amount of thoughts and prayers, no rhetorical gymnastics will make sense of what happened last week. But comprehensive gun legislation and wide accessibility to mental health resources are the only step forward to avoid something like this happening to anyone else. No one should have to walk into a classroom fearing for their lives. No educator should have to see their students die. Last week, I almost lost a good friend of mine, my office pal, Marco Diaz Munoz. He's the professor whose class was attacked last Monday. No amount of talk will make up for what he and his students suffered last week. It's time that we make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Nicole Beard, and I am here to represent the Lansing chapter of the NAACP. I echo all the sentiments that have been spoken today about gun laws, improved legislation. So I'll just summarize this part by saying that we happily stand alongside our legislators and policymakers as we work to enact those safe schools and gun law legislation. Some specific things, we really need the lack of indecision. We really need action on this, and we need it quickly. We need solutions that are going to keep us safe. We need leadership that's going to advocate for all of our communities. We need solutions that do not criminalize specific demographics in our communities. And we all need to come together when we create these new laws. Children are entitled to an equitable and engaging school experience, and we have not been giving them that. I'm going to shift gears here because I want to talk about another perspective as a school administrator. I have worked in several school districts around this area as a teacher for over 15 years, and this is my 7th year as a school administrator. And we feel the pressure every day. We walk into those schools, and we do whatever we can to make sure that kids are in an engaging and happy learning environment. About 3 weeks ago, I experienced swatting. My school district, which is Okemos Public Schools, was one of the school districts in Michigan that got that phone call or that radio call from our superintendent to lock the schools down. From the classroom that I was in to the office was about 30 steps. In less than 30 steps, it had escalated to where I didn't need to press the panic button. The school district decided to do it for all the schools simultaneously. In that moment, I didn't know what was going on. The first thought that came to my mind was, are there any kids in the bathroom? Are there any kids on the playground? What am I going to tell the teachers? Why am I walking around in the hallways making sure everybody's safe when I should be sheltering in place? But I couldn't. I couldn't shelter in place because I don't know that I would ever be able to forgive myself if I'm hiding behind a desk and a child is huddled in a bathroom and there's an active shooter in the building. So we go through our process. A few minutes later parents begin to arrive. Current policy dictates that we cannot open the doors because we don't know what's going on. So there are parents standing at the doors, crying, cursing, pulling on the doors, yelling, please, can I get my child? And I have to stand there and say, I'm so sorry. I can't let you in right now. And theoretically, we understand that. But what you don't understand is trauma is trauma, whether it's real or perceived. In that moment, we thought there was an active shooter in Oklahoma's public schools. We didn't know what school they were in. So my K through 4 students were soon gathered up and we sent them home. We had a day off, and then the next day, it's supposed to be business as usual. There's no coming back from that. I'm still fielding phone calls, emails from parents that are terrified to bring their kids to school. They want answers that I can't give them. And it's breaking down the trust between school districts and our communities that we serve. And that's not fair. We need our legislators to partner with us. Please listen to us. And not just a select representative to help push forth what you want to happen. Get a representative, a select representative that covers all of Michigan, urban, suburban, charter, private, whatever you need. Sit down with us, listen to us. Because if you don't, you are going to continue to lose amazing educators, just like this woman that spoke. We should not have to wake up in the morning and decide, I'm going to put down the career that I've done all my life, because I don't know if I'm coming home. If we work together, we can make this happen. The NAACP stands with you. My husband is also a school administrator. We deal with this every day. All you need to do is just get us together. We will tell you. We will tell you what we need. We need you to listen to us. And also, my last thing, as a graduate of Michigan State University, my heart goes out to my alma mater. So whatever you need from us, we are here for you. Thank you.
Auburn Hills, Waterford, and the entire city of Pontiac. I also serve as the vice chair with Senator Rosemary Bell on the Firearm Safety and Gun Violence Prevention Caucus. Gun violence impacts us all. I don't want anybody out here to think that we in the legislature are not impacted. You witnessed us in the chamber as we spoke on it, and our hearts went out to you. But what you also need to know, that if you're fortunate enough, anyone out there watching me now, if you're fortunate enough not to ever been impacted by gun violence, or you don't know anybody that has, you know somebody now. You know me. Excuse me. Give me just a second. I am a strong supporter of gun reform, but I'm also a survivor. The only thing that's more painful than hearing that your child has been gunned down is having to live it every single day. The trauma doesn't end at the cemetery. It's with you. It never disappears. Like the families of Ariel, Alexandria, and Brian, I grieve for them. I suffer with them because I know their pain. You see, not too far from here, a couple blocks up that way, my child took his last breath. He was my only son. So I know what the parents of the 3 students out at Michigan State are feeling right now. And I am a legislator. I sit over there so I can speak with authority the pain that these parents are going through right now. And not only did I lose my only son, I lost my nephew to gun violence in Grand Rapids. That's a 2. So you know how important it is for us to pass sensible gun reform now. I am here today because we lost 3 precious lives at my alma mater, Michigan State University. And 5 of those young people are going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives. I'm here today for the hundreds of students out there in Michigan State that had to shelter in place, terrified for their lives. I'm here today for the community of Oxford that had the reminder hit them in the head again how unsafe our schools, our campuses are. This senseless loss of life not only happens in our colleges and our universities, you know, thank God it happens infrequently. But you think about all the young people who die every single day in communities like Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Grand Rapids. I'm here today for 7-year-old Araya Jackson, who was gunned down in Pontiac. All she was trying to do was go to school. This is why with Senator Rosemary Bear, come up here, Senator. Come up here. Give this lady a round of applause. I know lots of people did it, but champions, because we understand that this is an epidemic that needs to be stopped now. Yes. We don't want to wait till later on. We don't want to wait till the next incident. We need to have sensible gun reform now. If we had had those background checks, if we had had safe storage, if we would have had ERPO in place, we might still have Ariel. We've got Brian. We still may have had these young people here with us today. If we'd have had these laws in place, my son might still be here. So there is no excuse at all. No excuse at all. This is not politics. This is policy. Get it straight. We're here. We're lawmakers. And if the people that you elected are not protecting your children, you know what to do. So, Senator, I want you guys to see this. Yes. I want you to see your champions who are truly fighting. We're here, and we stand with you, MSU, my alma mater. We stand with you, Oxford. We stand with the young people that's here today. We will not have another senseless gun violence. We will end gun violence in Michigan now.
Hello, my name is Noreen Chowdhury. I am a student and a board member of MSU March for Our Lives. I am only 19 years old. I should not be here fighting for my safety right now. I should not have to fight for my life in between going from my writing class to my math class. I should not be barricading my own door to my dorm and hide under the bed I lay on when I finish my homework. I should not be sending texts to my family saying, "Mom and Dad, I don't know what's happening, but I love you." I should not have to worry about this. I go to school to educate myself and build for my future, but what future is there when I only hear the words run, hide, or fight? I still have 3 more years to go until I graduate. I should not have to feel like this. It's February 20th, and it's been 51 days since the year 2023 has started. Why does it say there has been 80 mass shootings on the gun violence archive? Why? Why does it say there have been 30 children between the ages of 1 through 11 and 217 teens ages 12 to 17 killed on the gun violence archive? All I am asking is why? Why are communities shattered and families torn apart? Why do I have to feel like this? In the United States, there are more firearms than there are people. If this isn't the time where you think of an approach to gun control, then I don't know when the time will be. It's not about taking people's right away. It's about ensuring public safety, our safety. It's time we ban assault rifles, these weapons that are strictly designed for military use, yet have been associated with mass shootings. By working together, we can find a strike balance between protecting the Second Amendment and promoting responsible gun ownership, while at the end, keeping our communities safe from gun violence. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Pamela L. I am a psychology major with a minor in law, justice, and public policy at MSU. I'm also the organizer of Wednesday Sit Down, and we will be having an event today at 1, doing the same thing, same concept.
Can't hear you.
Run, hide, fight. Do you know what that means? On the night of September 11th, 2022, I was with friends in a downtown East Lansing apartment as I walked into the building and said, "Did you guys hear that?" And we went on doing our normal tasks. September 11th email reads, regarding the report of shots fired off campus in the city of East Lansing near Mack Avenue and Albert Street, the suspect is believed to have left the area. There is no suspect information at this time. Please continue to avoid the area and use caution. Message reads, "Mama, there's a shooter outside of our building. I'm safe." On the night of October 30th, 2022, I was celebrating an early Halloween, grabbing my car from the Grove Street parking ramp. October 30th, email reads, "This is an MSU alert from the Michigan State University Police regarding an incident in the city of East Lansing. A report of shots fired occurred at or near downtown East Lansing. If nearby, use caution. Contact East Lansing Police to report any unusual or suspicious activity. Gunshots were reported to have been fired in the area of the Grove Street parking ramp. Officers are on scene. Suspects are reported to be 2 black males, one wearing a black jacket with a red design on the back and one with a backpack. Please avoid the area at this time. Call 911 if you observe anything suspicious." Message reads, "Mama, don't worry, I'm safe." On the night of February 13th, 2023, I was getting ready to celebrate Valentine's Day with my partner. Email reads, 8:37 p.m. MSU police reports shots fired incident occurring on or near the East Lansing campus. Secure in place immediately. Do you know what this means? Run, hide, fight. Run means to evacuate away from danger if you can do so safely. Hide means to secure in place, and fight means to protect yourself if no other option. 8:38 p.m., 10:07 p.m., 11:01 p.m., 11:40 p.m. Run, hide, fight. On the night of February 13th, I sit 4 hours frantically texting my friends. Message reads, "Mama, there's an active shooter on campus. I love you."
I come to you on behalf of One Love Global, Black Lives Matter Lansing, Black Lives Matter Michigan, and Black Lives Matter grassroots. And I'm here with my family standing with me. I had a different speech prepared for you today. And yesterday when I was expecting a call about our sound system, when I answered, what came through the phone is a sound that no legislator with a conscience could vote no on legislation for gun safety. If you've never heard a mother wail from a place that comes from another world, you haven't scratched the surface of how devastating gun violence is in our communities. And I'm here representing the community of Lansing, the community of Lansing that exists beyond the state capitol, where record numbers of children have been dying. In 2022, One Love Global decided that our top priority would be that no child would die of gun violence in a place where we live, work, and serve our community. And we know that gun violence is a public health issue that demands a public health solution. We heard our young people. Thank you, students. Thank you, March for Our Lives. Thank you, families from Oxford. Folks who have traveled from across the country, from across the state to be here today, we thank you. We thank you from the south side of Lansing, from the west side of Lansing. The communities that don't get seen and heard when legislators come in and move out from day to day while our children die. We were preparing a press conference because an 18-year-old lost his life allegedly at the hands of a 13-year-old. Now I ask you, as the scripture says, what father, when their child asks for bread, would give them a stone? Our children are asking you to give them their lives back. Will you answer with a bullet? I dare you. It is time to take action on gun safety. And it is time to get to the roots of violence. We talk about gun violence as if it's an anomaly, as if it exists only with a gun. The transformation happens in our hearts and our minds, in our souls and our spirits, in us seeing the value in one another's lives. We are one. We are one. Every child that dies from gun violence is my child. And I am here. I am begging you. I am demanding, on behalf of the young people that we serve every day, to understand that the roots of violence are the same in every community. It is time to end state-sanctioned violence in all of its forms and to not create special classifications of violence that deserves to be treated and violence that is allowed to continue. What the victim looks like shouldn't matter. What the perpetrator looks like shouldn't matter, because we are all hurting. And when we understand that carceral solutions do not address the root causes, we have to change the way that we think and the way that we act. Trauma and violence begets violence. Violence will never end violence. We have to lean into love, and the most loving thing that our elected leaders can do is to pass gun safety legislation. Thank you.
I want to take this time to thank you, the media, for showing up. We will be taking questions in just one moment, and we thank you for coming to lift up the voices of our survivors, the voices of our parents, the voices of our impacted communities. On behalf of the majority of the Michigan State Board of Education, we thank you as well. And I just want to let you all know that we have, as the State Board of Education, passed resolutions that speak to and in support of legislation to end gun violence. Dr. Michael Rice, our Superintendent of Public Education, will be testifying next week. At this time, I want to give the media the opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to have, I don't know if Senator Bear is still here. If you could come forward.